Today, we're going to start off talking about corporations again with mergers, acquisitions, and termination. This is one section we did not get to do previously because of our class schedule. So let's get started. It's got some pretty colorful things in it that I kind of like to talk about. So, what is the merger of two businesses or two corporations? Well, it's, first of all, a legal contract. Those two businesses agree to become one business. They combine two or more corporations so that only one of the corporations continues to exist. In essence, one corporation absorbs one or more of the other corporations, and they just simply exist as one corporation. They can adopt another name, they can take one of the names of one of the corporations, but they no longer operate separately or independently. They have merged. What is a consolidation? A consolidation combines two or more corporations that results in an entirely new corporation. It takes on a new identity. It's probably not even going to be called the same thing as it was before. It's going to have a new function. Call it a new function. I'll put that in air quotes. Even though it does the same business that the old corporations did before. To them and the new corporation, it's all new. Neither of the original corporations continues to exist. So how does this work? Well, the shareholders are going to vote to consolidate the two companies. They exchange or take their stock and turn it into the company and get new shares, and it gets approved sometimes by the Securities and Exchange Commission, but not always. And we have three different types of rights and things that happen with a merger. The first one is called the short form merger. The short form merger is where we have a parent and a subsidiary merger. That is, a parent corporation already owns the other corporation. Their stock may be separate, but the parent owns the great majority of it. The parent then buys up the rest of the stock and absorbs the company upward. It's sort of like a vertical integration. Absorbs it into the larger corporation. Now, what would be the advantage to that? Anybody have an idea? What would be the advantage for one corporation absorbing another corporation that it already owned a lot of? The clientele. When the parent company absorbs the smaller company or the other company into itself, they know who the clientele is, and even if they're going to do the same kind of business, you're right, they get access to those client records. What would be another advantage? Profit. They don't have to share profits with the other company. If they're doing all the business themselves, the bottom line is the bottom line of the consolidated or merged company, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Anything else?
One thing that controls the control over whatever goes on in the company, like control over what goes on, say so over everything.
Say so over everything. For example, let's say that the two companies have duplicate sales forces. What are they going to do? They're also going to consolidate the sales forces. Yeah. What else can they do? They don't have to have the big sales force. They can reduce the size of the sales force and just keep the best people. We used to call that cherry picking, where they take the best of everything, the best fruit, and they combine it into their own sales force. They may actually have done the same kind of thing, but now they can put it all together. The other thing is they can combine, if they're a manufacturing company, manufacturing processes. Wouldn't it be cool if we had a factory where in the summer we produce snowmobiles for winter use, and in the winter we produce riding lawnmowers for summer use on the same manufacturing line? That's pretty kind of cool stuff, huh? So that's one of the things we can do. So there's a lot of things that can happen. And the short form merger happens where one company is a parent company and the other company is like the child, and the parent company owns most of the smaller company. It will not require shareholder approval. Why would it not require shareholder approval? I gave you a clue a couple of minutes ago. I said the parent corporation owns most of the stock already. So if they own most of the stock already, who's going to approve it? They are. And that's it. It's all done, all over. Very easy, very simple to absorb a small company into a large company. Rights of shareholders. Well, let me throw a monkey wrench into that. It doesn't have to be, it can be a small company at the top, but a very rich company that absorbs the larger company and then reorganizes it. So we can't always say that the company that's going to merge or consolidate is the big one at the top. It could be the small rich one at the top. What shareholder rights are there? Well, shareholders in a merger vote only on exceptional matters regarding the corporation. Real important stuff, like who the new board of trustees are going to be, or who the new board of directors are going to be, depending on what kind of a company we have. Yeah, they vote on that stuff. Then they turn it over to the new board of directors, and the new board of directors hopefully will start acting like one. Appraisal rights. Shareholders have a right to have their shares appraised and to receive monetary compensation for their value. So, let's say we're going to merge a big company whose shares are $100 a share with a small company, and the small company has shares that are worth $80 for the small company. So shareholders have a right to ask what question? What are my shares going to be worth when the small company takes over the big company? So they have to have an appraisal. Well, when the small company, if they're a very rich company, absorbs the big company, those shares are going to go up anyway. Why? Because that small company didn't get to be very wealthy and have a lot of money and stock and assets without knowing what they're doing. So the shares are probably going to go up. But just to allay the fears of the individuals who own the company that is being merged into the smaller company, they will have an appraisal. It's always good anyway to have an appraisal, right? Always. What happens with a merger and consolidation? How do we manage it? Well, the board of directors of all the involved corporations have to approve it. If we have 3 companies that are all going to merge, the boards of directors and all of them will sit down and decide if that's the right thing for their corporation, and they will vote for it. If they go for it, okay. Then the shareholders have to approve what the board of directors has already looked at and analyzed. And that will be at a shareholder meeting. Now, the board of directors for each business will then call a shareholders meeting, and all of those shareholders will come in and they will vote. Or, remember how else you can vote, not just in person, but by proxy. Okay? By proxy. And they will vote either by proxy or in person, but they have to approve the plan at a meeting that is public for all the shareholders. The corporations then must submit their plan to the Secretary of State. So all this information and all these approvals go up to the Secretary of State. And the Secretary of State then says, okay, it's all right or not. And then the state has to review the plan thoroughly, and it does. Sometimes those plans are volumes thick. And if it satisfies all the state's legal requirements, it will grant a certificate of approval. That certificate of approval will allow the corporation then to merge or consolidate. Assets. What happens to all the assets of this company? Or these companies? Well, you can do one thing. If the company that is consolidating or merging with the company below it or beside it wants to, it can consolidate or merge by buying all of its assets. That may not sound like it's the best way to go, but sometimes it's the cleanest way to go. Just buy them out. That way everybody's happy. And it actually extends the business assets and the business itself by doing that. Corporate assets will then be all of the intangible items, even corporate goodwill. Remember, that is an accounting category, because goodwill and the good name of the company is worth something. The company name, the company logo, all those things. The tangible items will be buildings, property, and all of the other items such as machinery, furniture, and stocks and bonds owned by the corporation. I did not put stocks and bonds up under intangible, but we can look at it either as a tangible asset because it is actually a physical asset, or we can look at it as an intangible asset because it sort of fits into the same category as the company name. You know it's there, you know what it is, you know what you're going to do with it, and you just buy it. Most generally, corporations that purchase assets of someone else don't acquire its liabilities. So the company that buys up all the assets stay over here. What happens to all those assets, those liabilities? Same things I started to give you the answer. Same things that happen to assets. If you have assets and you have liabilities, and you distribute all the assets, but this time the assets are going to the other company in the merger, what's going to happen to the liabilities?
They have to go somewhere.
They do. And where do they go? Okay, anybody want to take a guess where the liabilities are going to go? Normally, go ahead. No. The government is going to get some of them, and how are they going to get them? You don't know. Okay. If you are distributed assets and you're a stockholder, you will also be distributed a per capita share of the liabilities. You can offset your liabilities against your assets, and then you pay taxes on the remaining assets, right? Like profits. So liabilities that are out there can be offset for tax purposes, the final tax return of the corporation before it merges, so that taxes are as low as possible and you're not actually distributing that many assets and liabilities to your stockholders. Then the stockholders can exchange their shares and they're not attached to a lot of liabilities, mostly assets. That make sense? You sure? Okay. Then somebody explain it to me. Okay, never mind. Purchase of stock. This is another way that you can get a hold of a company. You have somebody go in, or a group of people go in, and purchase all the stock of that corporation. So let's say that I own Able Company, and I want to buy Charlie Company. So I have somebody else, we'll call them Baker Company, and they're a holding company, go out and we supply them with the capital, and they go out and buy all the shares of Charlie Company and then sell them to us. That allows us to take control of Able Corporation by getting a hold of a substantial amount of the voting stock. One problem here, if Bravo Company is buying the stock for us, we hope they're going to do what? That we hope that they're not going to keep the shares and decide to vote them themselves, because by rights they own them. By rights they own those shares, and they could actually end up buying out my company, Able Company, even though we didn't want them to. That's a defense. That's a defense to acquisition, and we're going to talk about that. It's a very colorful name. A hostile takeover. Oh, now we get into the real colorful stuff. Don't you love the name hostile takeover? Don't you see somebody like Wreck-'em Ralph out there trying to take over a company?
No.
No?
Maybe let's take it and go.
So let's call it Wreck-'em Ralph. He's our hostile. And what's going to happen is he's going to try a takeover to which the management of the target corporation objects. Right? So what he's going to do is he's going to go out and he's going to try and buy this entire corporation when the other corporation doesn't want him to have anything to do with it. That's a hostile takeover. Here's some other ones. A tender offer. A tender offer is when an aggressor, or me with Able Corporation, offers the target shareholders, Charlie Corporation, a price above the current value of their market stock value. So, Charlie Corporation has a value of $12 for a share of stock. I go out and I want to take their company over. So what do I do? I offer their shareholders $18 a share. Now that is pretty attractive for somebody. That way it's above the price of the stock that they're holding, and they might think about selling it to me. So that's a tender offer, and I can acquire enough stock to actually acquire and merge or consolidate with that other corporation. An exchange offer. The aggressor, me, I'm an aggressor. I'm a Scorpio. That's my nature. I'm an aggressor.
Happy belated birthday.
Yeah,
Huh?
happy belated.
Yeah, I heard that.
I heard it was yesterday.
Yes, my birthday was yesterday. Oh, thank you.
Happy belated.
So an exchange offer, let's talk about that. An exchange offer is where I offer, as the aggressor, to exchange the target shareholders, the people that own Charlie Company, some of my stock for the stock in their corporation. So, Able Company, my stock is worth a lot more than Charlie Company's stock. And so I offer Charlie Company stockholders shares of my stock. Now you can do it 1 for 1, you can do it 2 for 1, you can do it 3 for 1, whatever you think it will allow you within reason to acquire that company. That's what we call an exchange offer. My stock for their stock. Okay? A cash tender offer. The aggressor offers the target shareholders cash for their stock. I just go out as the aggressor to the other stockholders and I say, I'm going to give you cash for your stock. I'm just going to buy it outright. Your stock is worth $10 a share. I'm going to buy it. I may give you the first people to come in, I will give you double. I'll give you $20 per share. If you come in after 5 days, it's $12 a share. But I'm going to give you money, cash, for your shares if you sign them over to me. That is a cash tender offer. So far we have a tender offer where we offer the target and its shareholders a price above the market value. We have an exchange offer where we're giving them stock in my company for stock in their company. And a cash tender offer in which I offer the target shareholders cash for their stock. Okay? Cash deal. What's the more attractive to you of these three?
Cash.
Cash. Why would cash be better?
Because you want money in your hand.
You have more money in your hand, you can pay the taxes and be done with it, right? It doesn't drag itself out. There's no legal difficulties with a cash exchange. So that's a good point. That's a good point. Anybody else have any different preferences?
Maybe the exchange offer because if that stock is worth more than mine, I can potentially resell it for like in the future for more.
Mm-hmm. You're a long-term investor, aren't you, Zach?
Maybe.
There you go. That is the kind of a strategy that a long-term investor would be. Get it and hold it and see where it goes. Especially if you have two companies which in the long run tend to be profitable and for the value of the companies to go up. Okay? If not, cash is better. Beachhead acquisition. The aggressor, that's me, I'm still the aggressive type, gradually accumulates the target company's shares. So what I do is I go out and very quietly, I'm stalking wabbits. It's wabbit season. You've seen that cartoon, Duck Season? Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm going out and I'm going to go to Zach and I'm going to buy 5 of his shares. And then I'll go over to Larry and I'll buy 20 of his shares. Now I'm not buying all of them. Now, so far I'm not raising any alarms anywhere. am I?
No.
No. So I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna buy from each one of you 5 of your shares. Now what have I done? 1, 2, 3, 4.
A share monopoly?
I have bought up 70 shares. Now, if 70 shares are 70% of the company's stock, what have I done?
Just bought some from everybody until you was able to almost own it yourself.
That's exactly right. I now own that business, no matter what anybody else says. But it was a beachhead attack. I went out and I bought just 5 shares. And nobody pays any attention to somebody who buys just 5 shares until they hit at 51%. And then everybody starts shaking in their shoes. All right? A leveraged buyout. What is a leverage? A leveraged buyout occurs when some group within the corporation, and that's usually management, buys all of the outstanding corporate stock held by the public. That means they get control of the company and the operations, and they have gone private and have become a privately held corporation. What is the major advantage of doing something like that?
Check up your prices.
Your prices and your profit, and that means,
Ownership.
what was that there?
Ownership?
Ownership, and don't you have to report to the IRS if you're a public company?
Yeah.
Exactly what your income and your taxes are every single year, but not if you go private. The Securities and Exchange Commission does not get that information if you go private. And so when you have a leveraged buyout and all the stock goes into a single management company and into a single group, they're private. They don't have to do all that reporting to the SEC anymore. And that's a major advantage because they don't have all the expenses that go along with that. That's right. So let's talk about some takeover defenses. We've talked about the takeovers themselves and how they work and how colorful the names are for those. Beachhead, tender offer, cash tender. Let's talk about some defenses. I really like these defenses because you can see they have some really colorful names and colorful descriptions. This is probably, in corporations, my most favorite part of working with law in corporations is defending against mergers and consolidations. This is how we do it. Let's talk about the crown jewel. And there's the crown jewel. Crown jewel is when you have something that is the biggest part of the production in your company, such as you have a very large furnace, which makes all of the pure aluminum for your product. It makes more pure aluminum than any other machine there is. And so what you do to stop somebody from taking you over is, if you suspect, you can generally tell when people start making takeover noises. If you suspect that they're going to do that, I go out and I sell title. I give title to that aluminum furnace to Abdul. He buys my furnace. I still get to rent the furnace, but it's no longer an asset of my business. That's what the people who were taking over my business wanted to begin with, was that major asset, because it made my business different. That's my crown jewel. Abdul has that crown jewel. I'm renting it from him. He bought it. I'm renting it back from him. But they can't take over my business. So what happens? They go away. And one of two things can happen after that. Abdul will let me buy it back, or he keeps it, I keep renting it, he's responsible for the upkeep and the maintenance of it, he owns it, and I keep doing business, and we have an arrangement. That's the crown jewel defense. It's a good one. It's a good one. Green mail. It's kind of like a reverse tender offer. On the face of, and you've heard of the term blackmail, right? Where somebody extorts money from someone to keep them from doing something positive. Well, we're going to keep them from doing something negative, which is take over our business. So what we're going to do is we're going to de-incentivize people from selling our stock to somebody else. And how do we do that? Green mail. If someone approaches them and asks them to sell their stock, they have to immediately sell it back to us. And this is part of their agreement to buy the stock. It may be printed in a little paragraph right on the front of the stock. They have to offer, if somebody makes them an offer, they have to bring their stock in, and we get to buy it back.
So can't, Papa John's do that?
Sure. If they can set that up legally, yeah, they can do that. They can set it up legally if they want to. They would have to restrict their stock.
And most companies don't restrict their stocks.
Most companies do not, and they do it for their own reasons.
Yes, I want to talk about that.
Lobster trap. Everybody ever seen a lobster trap? This is a lobster trap. What does that look like? If you got little lobsters and you put that lobster trap down on the floor of the bay in the ocean, up in Maine, we'll say, what happens with the little lobsters? They're going to get out. Why? Because these slats are far enough apart where the little guys can get out. So they're just going to go scurrying on right out. But the big ones go in and they get stuck. So here's what happens. We make provisions where all of the individuals who own more than 5% of our company value of stock must notify us if someone attempts to buy their stock more than 5%. And we're going to let our little guys that own 5% sell their stock if they want to, because we know that we have only 45% of the shares of our stock out there to smaller investors. So if they want to buy up 45%, that's fine, because who has the rest? Major stockholders who bought it because they want to keep it, like Zach. He's going to keep that stock and nobody's going to get it away from him. We trust guys like Zach, so we share our wealth with him, but the little guys can go if they want to. That's a lobster trap defense. The big guys have to keep their stock. The little guys can let it go. Pac-Man. There's Pac-Man. And who's played Pac-Man in here? Just about everybody at one time or another, right? What does Pac-Man do?
Eat everything up.
He eats all those little dots and he goes around and he gets to those ghosts before they get to him, doesn't he? So he's going to eat them up before they eat him up. So what is the Pac-Man corporate defense? Buy them up before they buy us up. If we have somebody come in who wants to buy up our company, What are we gonna do to them? We're gonna turn around and we're gonna buy them up. That's the Pac-Man defense. And they might not even know it, because we can use tender offer. We can use any one of those things. We can use cash offer. We can go out to their stockholders and find out anything we want, and we can start buying them up. And we can buy up control of them. That's Pac-Man. We've bought up enough where we can't be taken down by those ghosties. Yeah.
What if like two companies continue to buy out each other?
You mean go back and forth?
Yeah.
What good does that do?
I'm just saying, does that happen? One wants to buy the other.
I'm sure it has. I'm sure one company has tried to buy the other company, and the other company has bought the 50% of the first company, and they both end up buying about 50% of each other. Yeah, it can happen. At that point, it's time to sit down and talk consolidation.
And partnership, what do you?
Yeah, what do you want? What is it about our company that you want? We each own 50% of each other's companies. Why don't you just sit down and tell me what it is, and we can merge or consolidate? Poison pill. Poison pill says that if somebody tries to buy us out, where's my poison pill up here? I don't have one. It'd probably be too gross anyway. Poison pill. The poison pill defense says that if somebody tries to buy us up, I am going to file for bankruptcy and take all of our assets and distribute them to our creditors. I have taken a poison pill. Everything is gone. Everything is gone. Except what? The money that I have sent to my investors for what they bought in my company. It's all going to go out. Scorched earth. What does scorched earth look like? Everything's burned, right? Scorched earth is another negative kind of defense. It's a defense when you do a lot of things like the poison pill. It's almost exactly the same. Except not only are you going to distribute everything to your investors, but you're going to reduce the market to almost nothing for your product. And there's different ways that different companies have for doing that. It's just how they do it and what the name of it is. Shark repellent. Shark repellent is where we make, I know none of you have been attacked by a shark, have you? I mean, I better ask, just in case.
I have.
You have?
Yes.
Why did the shark not bite you?
Because we were friends. We decided we were both sharks. And he was the one that was in the water, and I was on top of the water.
Nice story, Larry. Okay.
It's okay to hate Professor, it's okay.
It's okay. All right. Well, shark repellent generally works by putting some substance in the water where the shark either can't get the scent of the individual or it can't tell where you are in there.
Oh.
The Navy's most inventive and most effective shark repellent is nothing more than an inflatable rubber, like ring that you put a baby in to splash around, and it has a black garbage bag hung underneath it. Well, if you don't look like anything but a bunch of seaweed floating on top of the water, and the shark can't smell anything through the plastic, it's going to think you're just a hunk of seaweed. So what you do is you make yourself, in this corporate defense, look like you're not attractive to somebody else. Like maybe buying up as much of your own stock as you can and forcing the value down. That would do it, wouldn't it? So that's a shark repellent. And there's a white knight. The white knight defense. Well, this guy's not white, but close enough. when I was talking about the crown jewel, I sold my major asset to Adler, right? So, you are my white knight. You own my major asset. I've sold it to you, but I sell it to you because I'm hoping you'll sell it back to me. That makes you the white knight. If you don't, we have to come to some other kind of arrangement. But that white knight defense is a good one because it allows you to continue doing business, and hopefully the individual who does this will be able to take a percentage or some stock or something in return, and the other guys will just go away. Okay? So that is your white knight defense. So that's the end of mergers and acquisitions.